This conference will now be recorded.
So for example, you have a files like this way: employee 100, okay, employee 2. Instead of loading one by one, we will load using the wildcard character. Yesterday I forgot that one. Okay, we will see that example today, and then we can jump into the remaining. I think in the data lake, what I can do is I will upload these files in the data. So for example, in the data, in the raw folder, I will upload. Good, sorry. Can you able to hear
Yeah,
now?
yeah, now we are able to hear.
Okay, I think I muted myself, maybe. Okay.
Uh,
Now here what you can do is here you can go the employee. Okay. Now here extract. I make both column as a string only. What columns I used? Employee ID, employee name. Control V, Control C, Control V. Okay, here I want to use text, txt, coding false, and I need to use another delimiter. 1 minute, maybe if I use wrong again it will fail. BI. Just I'm showing how to extract files using the wildcard character. Instead of writing each and every file and union the data, then what we can do is we will use the wildcard character.
The star within curly braces in place of 1, 2, 3,
Yes,
4 like that.
yes. Delimiter. Our delimiter is comma. Okay. Now select star from raw and my output file is refined. Output file. Okay, fine. Okay, now. Now you can see generally. 1 minute. Wait. What we can do is here. If I don't use wildcard character, what I can do? I need to declare like, so for example, here, suppose I am not using wildcard character, what I can do? I need to use 100. This is I can make it as file name 1. Control C, Control C, Control V, Control V. Here I can make it as 2. Here I can make it as 3. Here what I can do? I can do 200. Here I can do 300. Okay. First I will show the normal example, then we can go to the wildcard character. Fine, I commented. Here I my raw one. Here I want to use employee one. What I can do is Control V, Control V, raw 2. Here what I can do is in file M2. Here I can make it as 3. Here I can make it as 3. In file 1 in file 2. Okay, fine. Here what I can do here, enter tab. Here I want to use raw one union, select start from the rate or raw to union, select start from the rate or raw 3. Okay, now what it will go, it will give the combination or combined data of the 3 data sets. Okay, this is the way. So example we will do. So now we can see the output. What is the output? Then later we will see the wildcard character, how we are utilizing the wildcard character. After combine, create line 32, line 32. Employee ID is all uppercase, employee ID name is all uppercase. This is the disadvantage of this one. Cannot convert from string to char. Where it is? delimiter I put as a wrong way. Where is the problem? Delimiter false.
Sir, delimiter within the braces.
This is correct only, no? What is the problem? Delimiter is correct. We can use single quotes, comma, single quotes. What is the problem? Okay, understand. We only corrected one place only, not corrected all the place. That is the problem. Got it, huh? We corrected only first, not all the places. That is the problem. Any questions on any topic in the USQL? Any question? Now we can see the data. I think it is reading three files and it will combine the data and it will show the data. Okay. Now what I can do is instead of using three extra statements, what I can do is I will comment this code and I will use the power of wildcard character. Now what I can do is I can give the wildcard character. Here also we don't require too many. Only one will handle all the cases. So I will remove all this code. Just here I will use the. Here you can see instead of declaring three times. So for example, three times you can declare four files you can declare. But if the file says generally when we are getting the data from the logs, logs are generating every second or every minute, every 5 minutes like that way. We can't able to give file name every time. So what we can do is in that scenarios we will use the wildcard character. You can use any. This is the one way of the wildcard character. You can use whatever you want, whatever way you want. Okay. Now what I can do is now I can execute 1 minute. I want to rename the file. I will. So for example, if I want, I will cancel the job. Okay, now it's cancelled. I can go to reuse script. Here I use the wildcard example. Okay, fine. I will close the PPT. I'll go to batch to that training. Now use SQL wildcard connector. This is also we are using very frequently in the real time. What is the in file emp1? Okay. I don't require this one. Clear wildcard character. Instead of declaring multiple, what it will do, it will look for the pattern of the file. So for example, here pattern is the employee underscore after whatever character. In the raw folder, we have employee 3 files are there. For example, if you have a different file, it won't extract. Only it will take employee file only. We have a lot of files in the use that folder, but it is using this pattern. Whichever file is matching with this pattern, it will pick up. Clear? Pattern wise, we are using the
Yes,
wildcard
sir.
character. We can pick the data. Actually, yesterday I forgot this one. So, okay, today we will start the important topic, data factory. I think most of our work we can do in the data factory. Okay, data factory, Azure data factory. Okay, is it a reporting tool or ETL tool or what is the tool Azure data factory? Anybody?
An ETL tool, sir.
Yes, it is a cloud-based
ETL.
ETL tool provided by Microsoft. Okay, just we will see this output. Too many columns in input record. 1 minute. Where it is data? How many files? Here you can see the problem is it is also extracting the employee underscore this one. So that is the reason it is giving error. So what I can do is here we can use the different way, or otherwise we can remove these 2 files. So what I can do is simply I will remove these 2 files, portal.azure.com, or otherwise here we can correct the script like this way also it will work. Only it will pick 1, 2, 3 like that way in the wildcard character. Either way is fine. You can remove that file. Generally, files, the same files, we can put it in the same folder. So we otherwise in the star place it will replace any character 1, 2, 3 anything, and it will be ended with a 0, 0. So my files are like that way. That is the reason I used wildcard character like this. So this is also another example. Clear a wildcard character. Just practice this wildcard character. Why? Because mostly we are using the real times. So for example, if your lead asking, we have the files in this so and so folder, you need to extract. Don't write too many extract statements. You can use the wildcard power and you can extract the data. Okay, fine. Now we can go to why it is not extracting any file. Why? What is the problem? File
Remove one
employee.
extra underscore. Yeah, that one.
Yes. Okay, meanwhile it will run. We will go to the data factory. I think this is one of the ETL tool from the Microsoft. First of all, I already explained, but still I'm going with the ETL. What do you mean by ETL? ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. That means, for example, we have data in the different places. Maybe in one system it is a different format. Data is the same, but they are representing in a different format. What we can do? In the data warehouse, we don't maintain the too many formats. We will maintain the consistent format that can answer for all the reporting, not only for the particular people. Data warehouse nothing but it will give the answer for all the people who are working in the organization, whether it is a CEO, whether it is a CFO, whether it is a sales manager, whether it is a sales representative. But based on their data access level, data will be changed. So that is the reason we are transform the data before loading into the any data warehouse. Then the process of ETL plays a key role in data integration strategies. Generally, we are extracting data from the different sources. What that means, we are integrating the data and put it into the data warehouse. ETL allows businesses to gather data from the multiple sources and consolidate it into a single centralized location. ETL also makes it possible for different types of data to work together. Data will be different way, but we want in this same format. What we can do, we have the step called a transformation. In that one we are doing transformation and we will load the data. ETL also makes it possible to migrate data between variety of sources, destinations, and analysis tools. As a result, the ETL process plays a critical role in producing business intelligence and executing border data management strategies. For example, if you want any data warehouse, if you want any reporting on data warehouse, we need data. How you can get the data? We can get the manually also. Just you can write the SQL script and you can import it into the data. But that is not the suggested way. We are using some tool that is nothing but called a ETL tool. Okay. Then come to ETL process. How we are doing in the ETL process? As I mentioned, we have the three steps: extraction, transformation, and loading. Generally, the terminology in extraction, we have three types of extractions. One is full extraction, another one is partial extraction, and another one is a 1 minute. We will see this data, and we can here you can see three files it is reading. If you want, you can see the data 100 and something, 200 also it is 200 xxx something, and final output will be a combination of this data. Clear a wildcard character, how to use wildcard character. Okay,
Yes, sir.
fine. I hope you are clear. Yes, any
Yeah.
question?
No,
Yes,
we are
please.
good.
You are good. Okay, fine, good. Now I can move to this one. Here, generally, any ETL tool, the basic concept is extraction. In the extraction, the terminology, you have to remember the terminology. So, for example, in the ETL, what do you mean by ETL stands for? Extract,
Transform and load.
transform, and load. Okay. In the ETL, the terminology you have to remember. So, for example, in extraction, we call it as generally your manager tell you can. So, for example, you are participant in this scrum. They tell you need to load the full extract. You need to do the partial extract. They will tell like that. You have to know what is mean by full extraction. Full extraction means complete data. For example, you have one table is there, in that 100 records are there. You can extract all the 100 records. What do you mean by partial extraction? Partial extraction means you have loaded. So, for example, in the source, yesterday we have 70 records. You loaded it to the 70 records, and today 20 records are added. Okay. I will explain you through this one. So for example, if you take one file employee, this is having 100 records. So for example, if someone asked full extraction, you need to load all 100 records. So for example, today in the employee table, 20 records are 100 are yesterday and 20 records are appended. If they ask what you can, if they ask the full extraction, what you can do? You need to load all 120. But in your database, the record will be in your destination, the records will be instead of 120, you have 220. If you do full extraction. So in this case, what you can do? First, I will truncate my destination data and I will load 120. Clear full extraction? How we are doing full extraction? Any question? Confusion?
No, sir.
Okay. Confusion, huh?
No, no.
No. Okay, good.
Sir, second
Now
line up, sir.
I will explain you 1 minute. Don't worry. So for example, you can assume this is the source. Okay. In the source, we have employee table. So for example, we have transaction table. Sales, I can make it as sales. This is a transaction table. Okay. I have the destination. In the destination also I have EMP. My table will be different. For example, employee. Here my table will be sales. Okay. You can make like that. So for example, you can make, so for example, 426 427 2021. In the employee table we have 120 records. Okay, your manager asked to load the full extract. So for example, they are asking full extract. What you need to do? You don't put any where condition. You are exactly whatever rows are there, we are putting into the destination 120. Okay, clear, huh? Suppose for example, this is a transaction database. Data will be added. So by 428 2021, the records will be 140. When I do the count, why? Because from yesterday to today, 20 records are added. Now your manager asking again full load. So for example, if you do again full load, what is our row count today? It will be 260. Why? Because the data will be appended to the existing data. Existing data yesterday 120 plus 140. This is a 260. This is not the correct figure. This is the wrong. Yes. So in this scenario, what I can do? First, I will truncate my table. Generally, whenever going with a full extract, we are truncating the table and we will load the data. Suppose if you truncate, 120 will be gone. Now the record count will be 140. Clear? Full extract. Any confusion? Hello?
Somewhat confused.
Yeah,
Who is confusion? Okay, again I will explain you. So for example, okay. So for example, don't assume this one. Okay. You have 120 records in the source table. What you can do, you write the select statement and you are extracting the data. You are putting it into the destination. Your record comp what is 120. This is a OLTP system. I told you this is the OLTP system. Here transactions are going on. So for example, after I loaded the data into my data warehouse, here you can make it as OLAP. So for example, 20 records are added this day. So for example, 20 records. What is my count here? My total count will be 140. Clear? For example, yesterday 120 records in the OLTP system, transaction system, and today 20 transactions are happened on that system. My total record count will be 140. Clear? Again, my manager asking the full extract. I am loading the data again. What will happen? In the destination already 120 is there. 140 will be appended to this one. My record count will be 260. I am duplicating the data. So this is not correct. Suppose whenever they are asking any full extract, what I can do? First, I will truncate the data. If I truncate the data, my data will be 0. Then if you do full load, the record count will be 140. Clear? Huh?
Sir.
Hello? Huh? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Truncate
Clear.
Yeah, clear.
I think still confusion someone.
No,
Is
sir.
everyone
What I'm
clear?
saying?
No, sir.
Hmm.
Clear.
Clear? Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Now we will go with the partial extraction. Partial extract. Suppose, for example, if you take employee table, I have 120 records. Okay. I have 140 by the 28. Why? Because 20 records are added, I know. Now I can here in the first day, if I go to employee, I already loaded using the full extract. In the first day I have is the full extract. I have loaded the 120 records. Now I want to go with a partial extract. What I can do is I will use the where clause where, so for example, inserted date or updated date. So for example, we have some date to identify updated date greater than or equal to 4/27/2021. Then instead of 140 records, when I use the partial load, I will get only 20 records. Why? Because I used the data after this date is updated. So now if I load the 20 records, 20 records will be appended to this 120. My record count will be 140. So in the partial load, I don't use truncate. I only use the flag like date stamp, or something like one is new record, 0 is a old record kind of thing. They will ask the interview, what do you mean by full load? What do you mean by partial load? Or this one we can call it as a not only partial, this is called it as a incremental also. Incremental extent. Okay, clear? In the full load, we need to truncate the data in the destination. We will load all the data. We don't put any where condition. In the partial or incremental extract, we are not truncate the data in the destination side. We are using the flags like updated date or any static flag 1 or 0 kind of thing to identify the latest record in the source table, and we will append that data to the existing data in the destination. Clear or not clear? Hello?
What is flag?
Yes, Narendra.
Flag.
Flag means just identifier. So whether it is a flag means whether it is a daytime column, whether it is, for example, daytime, fine. Generally, we use the daytime. Based on the daytime, we will pick the data when it is inserted. For example, you loaded data by the 4/27. What you can do, whatever records updated or inserted into the source table, you can take from that day, from that time. And another way is generally, whenever they are inserting new record, they can make it as a flag one. For example, tomorrow while doing transaction, they make it as a 0 in the source side, 1 or 0 kind of thing. But the general approach is we need to go with a updated date, any date, updated date, inserted date, whatever date source team telling, we can use the date as a identifier for us to identify the latest records. Clear?
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine. Now here you see what is the difference between without update notification with update notification. Generally, without with update notification means this updated date. Suppose generally in some projects like, so for example, they have a sales data. This is huge records, millions of records. What they can do, you don't go with any data option. Just you can pick last 3 months data. last 3 months data. We don't compare anything blindly. We can take last 3 months data and we will load it into our destination. That is nothing but a without update. Okay, clear? Now I am moving into the transformation. Transformation very simple. Data extracted from source server is raw and not usable in its original form. Therefore, it needs to be cleansed, mapped, and transformed. In fact, this is the key step where ETL process adds value and changes data such that insightful BI reports can be generated. This is the very crucial step. Whatever data we are getting from the source, and based on our requirement, we will transform. So simple examples. Our example, I will tell you. Suppose I am getting the data from the 3 sources. You can assume I am getting data from the 3 sources. Source 1, I have employee table. In the employee table, I have EMP ID, comma, F name, comma, L name. Okay. Like for example, 100, comma, X, comma, XX, 101, comma, Y, comma, YY. In the source to same employee table, source to I have the same employee table. My columns are like employee ID, comma, name only. Here I have 200, comma, A hyphen AA, 201, comma, B hyphen BB. Source 3 also you can like that. But in my destination, I have the data like in my destination, I have the data like employee number, comma, employee name. I want the data like, so for example, 100, comma, X hyphen XX, 101, comma, Y hyphen, sorry, Y hyphen, YY, 200, comma, A hyphen, A, 201, comma, B hyphen, BB. Okay, now. Now this data I can able to take as it is. I don't require transformation here, but here I need the transformation required. What I can do, I will concatenation these two F. I will concat here. What I can do, I need to do here. I need to do concat F name, comma, hyphen, comma, L name. This has a full name. This has a employee name. What does this mean? This is nothing but a very basic simple transformation. So in the sources, we have the different types of data, but in the destination, we will show in the unique form. So where we need to do all these transformations, we are using the transformation step. Clear? Huh? What do you mean by transformation? Just you ping in the chart. If you are clear, then I will proceed. Hello, any questions? Hello, clear or not clear?
Yeah, clear. It's not.
Okay. Okay, fine. Then loading. Generally, this is the terminology we are using. Initial load means whenever we developed the project, when we move to production, first time we will load the data completely. That is nothing but full load. But generally, the terminology is the initial load. People will ask initial load completed or not. Okay, clear? Huh? Incremental load, I told you, daily we are doing delta. That is nothing incremental. What do you mean by full refresh? First time we loaded the data and we loaded incremental also. And every month, what we can do, we will full refresh. That is nothing but again we are truncating the data in the data source in the destination, and we will load complete data. Generally, in the industry, first time we will load the full load. Next day onwards, we are doing the incremental loads. Generally, we will go either weekly or monthly or quarterly, or hourly. Based on the data, based on their source data, we will go full refresh. Just you can remember this full refreshment, we are completely extract the data and we can truncate the data in the destination that we will load the data. This is the terminology. Whenever we are doing initial load, that is a initial load. Incremental, that is a delta or incremental load. And full refresh means we are doing the full data load. We are truncating the data in the destination side. We will again pick the data. So that is the reason we are maintaining different packages in the database side. I will show you what do you mean by initial load, what do you mean by incremental load, what do you mean by full refresh. But this terminology, why I am telling you this terminology is general in this Scrum calls, business users will ask whether the initial load is completed, whether incremental load is going on. Yesterday is the incremental load, incremental or delta load. Okay, clear? Huh? Now this is a simple process. Generally, every ETL process, we are extracting the data from the sources. Either generally we are maintaining the staging area, and they will ask in the interview, so what is our ETL process? You need to tell we are extracting the data, putting it in the staging table, then we will do the transformation and load it into the data warehouse. This is the process, general data warehouse following. This is the terminology. We are extracting the data, place it into the staging area, and do the transformation and put it into the data warehouse. So for example, in our case, the sources will be a SQL server or Oracle or SAP or any flat file or any cloud storage like blob storage, data like Gen 1, Gen 2 or AWS or Google Cloud, anything. Our staging area, for example, based on our requirement, it is a Azure SQL data warehouse or Azure SQL DB or Azure blob storage or Azure Data Lake Gen 1, Azure Data Lake Gen. What is our data warehouse? It is the Azure Synapses or Azure SQL Blob Storage, Azure Data Lake Gen 1. Base storage will be different. Whatever based on the user specification, we will go with the data warehouse. Generally, data warehouses, we are using the relational data warehouses. Means like Azure Synapses or Azure SQL DB or Snowflake or Amazon Redshift or Azure SQL Server, like kind of we are using. Now going to next screen. Okay, what do you mean by ETL vision? What are the ETL tools right now available in the market? The most powerful and most demanding tool is the Informatica. Here we need to identify the what are the cloud-based ETL tools, what are the on-premises. I will tell you before going to them. We have two types of ETL tools. One is on-premises, and that is the old tools, and cloud tools, cloud ETL tools. Okay, on-premises, I'm telling you, on-premises ETL, like the popular one is SSIs. I think most of you guys heard, and data stays, and Informatica, and ODBI something, ODBI W something is from the Oracle. These are the most popular on-premises tool. We can use right now. These tools are exist, but whenever we are doing with huge amounts of data, these tools can't able to perform as we expected. That is the reason most of the companies come up with a cloud tools to handle the huge amounts of data. The data source will be on-premises or cloud, whatever tool. The popular one is Informatica ICIS, Informatica ICCS, Informatica Cloud Services. This is called it as Informatica Cloud Services, and ADF we are going to learn, and a lot of tools are there. Here you can see IBM InfoSpace Data Sets Talent. This is also very important tool. Right now, most of the people are using this Talent also. Talent also a popular tool. Popular tool. Then like this is AWS queue. This is coming from this one, Amazon. This is the Google Cloud Data Flow. This is 5.Tran also some. This is also one of the stitch. The most popular ones are Informatica, Azure Data Factory, Talent, AWS Glue, not that much. This 5.Tran and Stitch. These are coming from some third-party companies. This AWS is coming from the Amazon AWS. This is Google Cloud is coming from the Google. Talent also third-party company. This IBM is coming from Infosys IBM. Azure Data from the Microsoft. This is Informatica. Clear? Huh? We have two types of tools. Generally on-premises, it will handle limited amount of data. This is cloud tools. This can be handle any type of data, whether it is a mostly in the on-premises, we will go with the relational data only. Earlier, we don't have this non-relational, unstructured, structure. We don't have that type of so many varieties of data. We don't have. So that is the time based on the business. These tools can able to work as they expected. Now industry has changed. Data pattern is also changed. So to meet the current requirements, every company trying to provide some cloud-based ETL tools like ICCS, ADF, and the Talent, 5.Tran, Stitch, AWS Glue. I think in the IBM side, Flow is there. I think so. Some tools are there. These are the most popular tools. You have to know why, because who is our competitor. For example, in the project you are using Azure Data Factory, client is telling maybe client is having multiple vendors. They tell some companies working on Talent, why can't we switch to Talent? That is the reason. Whatever work we are doing, we have to know our competitors. So that is the reason I mentioned these all tools. Okay. Then coming to next, what do you mean by ELT and ETL? Actually, there is a big confusion in the ELT and ETL. ETL is the traditional approach. Extract, transform, and load. ELT is a modern approach. It means first we will load the data and then do the transformation. Why? Because here we are handling with the huge amounts of data. We can't able to do the transformation while data flowing is going on between the tools. That is the reason, to make sure our transformation work properly, what we can do is from the source, we will extract the data, we will put it into some place, then only we can start the transformation. That is nothing but a ELT, modern approach. I think it is clear. This document will clearly tell. ETL is a different. Don't get confused. I also confused. This is ELT. Earlier one is ETL. ELT is a different method of looking at the tool approach to data movement. Instead of transforming the data before it's written, ELT lets the target system to do the transformation. This is the approach, only the approach. But ADF will handle both ELT and ETL. But based on our requirement, we will use the tool. The tool can able to handle both the approaches. But based on our requirement, sometimes we will use this tool as a ETL. Sometimes we will use this tool as a ELT. Any tool will support both. The data first copied to the target and then transformed in place. ELT usually used with no SQL databases like Hadoop, cluster, data appliance, or cloud installation. Mostly cloud data is very huge. It is generating continuously. You can't able to take the data in a static point. That is the reason. First, whatever point you have, whether you can take the data, you can do transformation, then load. Then again, you can trigger your pipeline. Now, what are the differences? Just you can read it. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load, while ELT stands for extract, load, and transformation. ETL loads data first into the staging server and then into the target system, whereas ELT loads data directly into the target system. Here we don't use any staging areas. ETL model is used for on-premises relational and structured data. That is the reason I told you this is a traditional approach. ETL is a traditional approach, ELT is a modern approach. If they ask any interviewer what is the ETL and ELT, you need to tell ETL is a traditional approach. We are working with relational data. ELT is a modern approach. We are working with the non-structured, unstructured, semi-structured data. And if the data size also used. ETL model is used for on-premises. This is used for cloud. ETL is mainly used for a small amounts of data, whereas ELT used for a large amounts of data. ETL does not provide data lake supports, while ELT provides the data lake support. ETL is easy to implement, whereas ELT requires nice skills to implement and maintain. Just you have to understand, we have two approaches while doing transformation. One is ETL, another one is ELT. ETL is a traditional one, ELT is a modern approach. Don't tell all these points, just you can explain high level, that is fine. Now coming to our tool, what do you mean by Azure Data Factory tool? As we know, this is a cloud ETL or ELT tool. It will support both methodologies. Azure Data Factory is the platform for these kinds of scenarios. It is a cloud-based data integration service that allows you to create data-driven workflows in the cloud that orchestrate and automate data movement and transform the data. They will ask, what do you mean by Azure Data Factory? It is a cloud-based ETL tool used to orchestrate the data or transform the data from the sources to the destination. They will ask what is the advantages. So here you can see create and schedule data-driven workflows that can ingest data from the disparate data sources. You can extract from different data sources. Process or transform the data by using compute services such as Azure HD Insight. For example, if you use SSIs, you can't able to use this power of this Spark and all this stuff. Why? Because they don't support. For example, you want to utilize this some Hadoop programming, you need to use the Azure Data Factory or whatever tool support that component. For example, machine learning. This is the advantage Azure Data Factory will give. They have already provided the native connector with all this stuff. So for example, if you want to call the HD Insight or Hadoop Spark program, you can able to here publish output data to the data store such as Azure Synapse Analytics for business intelligence. What not only Azure Synapse, it will support n number of destinations, n number of sources. Not only Azure Data Factory, any ETL tool. For example, Microsoft only stick with Microsoft compatibility sources or destinations. He can't able to survive in the industry. Why? Because client is having data in the Oracle system. Client is having data in the SAP system. So every ETL tool, they don't to work for particular sources or particular destinations. They will prepare the tool such a way like that it can able to extract data from the any source and any destination. Maybe some limitations are there. So based on the tool limitations, we will use either Azure Data Factory or Informatica or Talent or whatever tool. Okay, it's a more of an extract and load and a transform and load a platform rather than the traditional extract, transform and load. It mostly this approach is ELT. First we will extract the data, loaded the data into the destination, then we can do the transformation. That is the overview of the ETL. Any questions? What do you mean by data factory? It is a cloud-based ETL tool used to orchestrate the data from the different sources and destinations. Then come to the data factory. We will see how to create data factory. Today we will see how to create data factory, and I will switch to portal. Any questions so far? Anyone?
Can we extract data from on-premises using ADF?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
It is a tool, not only it is a cloud-based tool. It will work with the cloud, but you can able to extract the data from the on-premises also. Most of the cases in the real time right now, they have extracted the data into the on-premises only. Why? Because most of the applications, they have data in the on-premises only. We will show you how we can extract data from the on-premises.
Okay, sir.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, now I can switch it to data factory. How we can create data factory, we will see. Then we can go to the examples later. Okay, fine. As I said earlier, we have the option. This is a new resource in the data factory, like other resources, data factory like that. But it not come into the storage. It come into the different option. So we can go to create a resource. Like here you can see whether it is a container, whether it is a database. No, it will fall into the compute or it will fall into the integration. So what I can do is the category is different. This is, or otherwise I can make it as a data factory. Here you can see. Don't take this one, Azure Data Factory Analytics Preview. I think they are providing another service that is in not published data. That is in the previous stage. So we can go to Data Factory. Just create data. Click on this one. Here it will click on create. It will ask the name and all this stuff. In your subscription, we are free trial. As I said, resource group don't change. You can use the existing one, batch 2. In the region also automatically it will come as a resource group, but if it is showing different, just you can make sure the region is also same as in the resource group, and you can give the name. Here data factory, I can give df batch 2. Okay, just naming convention. Df means data factory. Here they will tell v1 or v2. In the interview they will ask what is the difference between v1 and v2. You tell I don't have any exposure on the v1. I started my career from the v2. Why? Because V1 we don't have too many features. Even I also don't have any experience on the V1. I know V1 and V2, but I also started my project from the V2 only. V1 is a legacy one, and they have some limitations are there. Blindly you can tell I started my career from the V2. Okay. Now another important feature is here config git later. Actually, while creating, if you have the repository like Azure DevOps or GitHub, any repository, we will configure this one. You can maintain the code. Generally, here what I can do is I don't right now configure. Why? Because I don't have that repository. So I can make it as config git later. If you have general in the real time, what they can do is they will use GitHub or Azure DevOps and they will provide the information here. Where here I will show you. First we can make it as config it later as checkbox, and next one is networking. You don't do anything. Advanced also you don't do anything. Here if you want you can this enable custom using customer manager key. Generally don't do. You can review and create. It will take some time, and I think it is a validation. Generally in the projects we use the Git repositories. Now validation gets succeed, then I will create the data factory. It will take some few minutes to create. Meanwhile, okay, this is the outlook you can see while open the data factory. This is the name of the data factory, and it will tell the version of the data factory. Whether you forgot the V1. If anyone asks, just you can tell I started from the V2. No problem. Why? Because I know no one don't know V1. Only some people only having experience on V1. And even V1 is not Microsoft maintained too many days. I think 1 year or 6 months only they maintained. That is the reason when people are started, they migrated to V2. Then immediately people are switched to V2. That is the reason no one is having experience on V1. This is the Okay, I will explain here. Our deployment is completed. What I can do is either you can go to resource or you can go to home, and here it will show the data factory. Here you can say type is a data factory. This is a resource group, data lake analytics. I think you guys know this, what is the type. Then if you click on this one, it will prompt the user IA like that way. Here same left pane. So for example, who are want here who are want to access your Azure data factory. Here role assignments, one role will come by default. Here you can see why it is inherited from the subscription. Otherwise you can't able to use your data factory until unless I provide the role. You guys clear? Huh? I think every services why it is inherited means I provided the this role at the subscription level. Whatever subscription access you guys having, then it will be inherited to the your whatever services created under that subscription. Same like whatever remaining this is same like that one. We don't use this too much. Hello, any question?
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, it means, sir, IAM user doesn't have any access by default.
Access controls, for example, if okay, I created the data factory.
Mhm.
I
You because you're the
until
root user.
uh, I
Because
am the
you are
root
the
user.
root user.
Root user,
Yes,
I am the admin user. I
yes.
need
But
to
I am
give
the one
access
IAM
to
user.
IAM. IAM also, this is identity management. So
Yeah.
for example, you are there in my Active Directory. Until unless if I provided the access, you can't able to
So
use this resource.
manual assignment should be there. Manual role
Manual
assignment
assignment
should be
should be there.
there. Okay.
Generally, people will do manual. Otherwise, what I can do is I provided the access to the users at the
Whole.
subscription level.
Okay.
In the subscription level, whatever resources I created,
Mhm.
the services will be access to the people who are in this group. Generally, I do. Otherwise, here I need to come to here. I need to add role assignment. You need to provide the access. Clear? Huh?
So until unless you provide access, we can root IAM
No.
user cannot access that data factory.
Any user. So, for example, in the organization, if you take 1 lakh people are there, I create so
Yes.
all 1 lakh people is there in their Active Directory. For
Yes.
example, they can able to access our data factory. No,
No. No.
whatever people we have provide access, those people only can able to access. Otherwise, where is the security? Why you
Yes.
are getting by default is okay. I have the subscription. My subscription is tied with the Active Directory. In the subscription level, I provide the access like who are services I created under the subscription. Whatever people I want, I provide the access. That is the reason by default you are getting this access. Otherwise, you don't
Yes.
get this access.
Yes. Not clear. So got it.
Okay, good, clear. Then this is the Warview tab. So, for example, if you want to delete here, you can see data factory v2. This is the name of the data factory df batch 2. And here it will show what is the status. So for example, if you delete it, it will be soft delete only. Generally in the Microsoft, most of the services soft delete until 30 days or 15 days, that will be removed completely. Now here too, if you want to see the documentation, you can click on this one. Then if you want to work on the data factory, this is the tab you need to use, author and monitor. If you click on this one, then it will navigate to the another tab and it will open the data factory. Actually, I need to enable cookies, then only it will prompt it without this one. I think something is blocking at my side. Okay, now here you can see this is the pane we are going to work. Here they have provided some default templates. So, example, while configuring, while creating data factory, I didn't configure the GitHub. Suppose if you want after some deployment, if you want, you can use this setup code repository. You can able to. You can use to copy data, create pipeline template, create data flow template, create pipeline. These are the template, but generally We don't use these templates. If you want, you can, no problem. But in the left side, we have the home but data factory overview button is there. Here author button is there. Here monitor button is there. Here manage button is there. If you want to create any pipeline, just home, this is the screen. If you can click on the author button, it will open the pin to create pipelines. Here they are providing the pipelines, they are providing the data set, they are providing the data flow, they are providing the Power Query. These are the different things are there. I will explain one by one. And go to monitor also, whatever pipelines we have prepared, what are the trigger runs, what are the data flow debug, what are the integration runtimes. I will show you that one, no problem. And another important is manage. Here we need to create the linked service, we need to create the integration runtimes. This is Azure PureView. This is the latest option. This is for the data governance tool. Generally, we don't use. Suppose if you want to git configuration, you can able to. If you create OM template, these are all different features. We don't go with right now. Just tool interface will be like that. We have home button. This is the home button. If you want to write any pipelines, if you create any pipelines, this is the author. This is the place mostly we are working on that one. Another one is if you want to see any pipeline runs, anything, you can go to the monitor tab. If you do any management work, kind of, if you want to create linked service, if you want to create integration runtime, we can go with the manage. Basically, four tabs are there: home, author, monitor, and manage. And before creating one pipeline, we will see the theory, whatever main components are there. Then we will create one sample pipeline. Okay. Now, when I go to this one, here, as I mentioned already, these are the main components we are going to use to create the our data pipeline work. The first one is the pipeline. Second one is activities. Third one is data set. Fourth one is linked service. Fifth one is data flow. Sixth one is integration runtime. They will ask in the interview, what are the main components of the data factory? You need to tell pipeline, activity, data set, linked service, data flow, and integration runtime. Then they will start. What do you mean by pipeline? What do you mean by activity? What do you mean by data set? What do you mean by linked service? Here we have mentioned all this stuff. What do you, first of all, going to this way, I will tell you, first of all, you need to look into the linked service. What do you mean by linked service? So for example, I will explain you. First, we will go with the, what are the components are there? What are the components? What are the components in ADF? Anyone? Pipeline, hmm. Activity,
Pipeline,
data set, linked service, data flow, integration runtime. Some other components are the triggers are there. These are the main components. If you tell these components, that is enough. Okay. Now we see one by one. First, I will start with the linked service. What do you mean by linked service? Linked service, nothing but, so for example, you want to extract data from the SQL. You need some bridge between SQL source and data factory. That is nothing but a linked service. For example, your data factory needs to contact with the SQL. How you can do? Using the linked service. That is nothing but this is a logical connection between the source and the data factory. Clear? Huh? Just you can read it, definition. Linked services are much like connection strings, which define the connection information that's needed for data factory to connect external sources, whether it is a SQL, Oracle. So, for example, you have one linked service. You have created linked service between, so for example, you created linked service between SQL to data factory. You can call it as SQL linked service. Name of the linked service is like that. So generally what you can do is we can take as linked service what is the database. So for example, I can AW. So for example, I am taking the SQL, the database name is AW. You have created the linked service like this way. This is naming convention. It will tell linked service, the source is the SQL, the database name is the ADW something. You have created one son. So for example, one other you want to take data from the another database, Oracle. Can I reuse this connection? No. Why? Because it doesn't understand. So here we need to create another service, linked service. You need to use Oracle. Suppose some database one DB1. You need to create another linked service. So what do you mean by first one? It will establish a connection between the data factory to the SQL. Whatever objects in the SQL, you can able to read using this connection. Nothing but a bridge between the SQL and data factory. Like that one in the Oracle also, same like. So for example, tomorrow you are extracting data from the Azure blob storage. You have one file is there. Can I reuse any one of these two connections? No. You need to create another connection using blob service like ls. I can tell blob. I can tell name of the blob ab12 like that. For example, I have two blob storages are there. Even so, for example, we need to create another linked service. The first linked service can't able to connect with the blob 2. What I can do here, I can create blob underscore ab23. Clear? Huh? Any question? Linked service.
Sir, we
Yes,
need
please.
to create different link services for different database in SQL or Oracle.
No. Different databases don't require in the SQL side. Whatever databases are there, we can able to. But in the blob, so for example, here two blobs are there. You need to create two connections. Within the
And
blob, no problem. In the
okay,
SQL
and
also, if your databases are there in the same server, you can use single one.
okay,
But while using, you need to change the database.
okay.
Generally, in the real time, so for example, two databases are there. Why? Because this won't take any memory. So what we can do is, if two databases are there, generally we will create two linked services. It will tell clearly. So for example, it will extract the data from the AW database. It will extract the data from the AW1, same server, but you are using the different connection. Generally, we will prefer this way. Clear?
Means
Huh?
mostly we need to use
We need,
different
yeah,
link services to
different. Yes,
for
yes,
different databases in the
yes.
SQL
Same server.
server. Same server.
Yeah, in the same SQL server.
Okay.
Generally, our data will be in the same server in the same database. But if in the different databases, my suggestion is you need to go with two linked services. It won't give any confusion. Why? Because just it is a bridge between the your database or your server and the data factory. Whenever you are triggering the component, then only it will work. Otherwise, it won't take anything. It won't take any memory. No problem. How many connections are there? You make sure you have to follow the naming convention in the linked service. Otherwise, you will get more confusion. My suggestion is linked service means ls, and next you can give the what type of sources you are connecting. Suppose if you are going with SQL, you can use the SQL. So for example, if you are going with on-premises SQL, you can name it as linked service on premises SQL, comma ADW1. It will tell. So for example, your SQL database in the Azure SQL DB and another source is in the on-premises. You can make sure. Otherwise, here on-premises like on-pre like that. Then whenever I am seeing this linked service, okay, Narendra created linked service. It is a SQL type of linked service. This is connected to the ADW1 and this is the on-premises one.
Okay.
While practicing also you have to follow the naming conventions. Why? Because you have to be habitual that one. Otherwise, when you deploy to the project, again you will create like a different way. That's a inexperienced guy kind of thing. So that is the reason. So for example, mostly in the blob storage, link service blob, we can give the name of the blob. I will give the syntax here. Syntax means linked service syntax means you can follow ls, then on premises is optional. On premises, this is optional. If it is on premises, you can use. This is optional. Then you can use the type of the service. Name of the DB or blob or anything. For example, if you are connecting to the, yes, for example, if you are connecting to the data lake, how you can mention. So for example, if you are connecting to the data lake, you can give like ls data lake DL, or you can mention complete data lake. So you need to give the name of the data lake. Suppose my case data lake 1, 2. That's enough. Just make sure naming convention. Clear, huh? Linked service.
Yes.
Here you can see, for example, an Azure storage linked service specify the connection string to connect to the Azure storage account. Additionally, an Azure blob data set specify the blob container and the folder that contains it. Linked service doesn't work with the data. Just it will establish a connection between the data factory to the source or destination. Clear? Sometimes in the real time, maybe this is a source connection. If you want, you can mention source also. So for example, you mention SOURC source. So for example, if you are using for the destination, you can mention as a destination. That's based on your project and how they are following naming conventions. You can utilize that naming convention. I hope you all are clear. Data set. Sorry, not data set. Linked service. What do you mean by linked service? Linked service is a connection between the data factory to the source or destination. It is a logical connection. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now going into the data set. What do you mean by data set? Data set represents the data structure within the data store. So for example, you created linked service ls SQL ADW1. Suppose you have tables like employee, you have tables like a department, you have tables like sales, you have table like customer. You need to create, so for example, you want to extract employee, you need to create data set. Data set nothing but the actual representation of the data. What we can do is we will use this linked service while creating this data set. Data set, how I can create is data set. I will taking from the SQL and I will use the employee data, or otherwise if you give ADW1 underscore employee. For example, if you want to take the data from the department, you need to create another data set. Don't assume too many data sets. We will do dynamically how to create, but internally or generally we need to specify the data set for each and every object. Otherwise it doesn't understand. So for example, if I want to take data from the department, I need to use SQL ADW1 underscore, I need to, sorry, underscore DGPT. Here you need to mention the columns, what columns you want to. Here also you need to mention what columns you want to. This will ask mapping. I will show you while working with. Clear data set? What do you mean by data set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Remaining guys, confusion or clear?
Sir, little
Clear,
confusion,
sir.
sir.
It will confuse you, no? I will show you while creating, no problem. Just right now you can assume linked service is nothing but the connection between the source and data factory. Data set means actual data representation. I will show you one pipeline, then you will get idea. Data set represents the data structure within the data stores, which simply point to or reference the data you want to use in your activities as an input or output. Whatever data we want to play in the pipeline, that is nothing but the data set. Okay, we will see, no problem. Right now, you can remember data set is a representation of the data. Linked service is a connection between the source or destination to the data factory. Okay. Now coming into the activity. What do you mean by activity? Whatever work we want to do, whatever work we want to perform, that is nothing but the activity. So for example, you want to extract the data from the blob storage and put it into the data warehouse. So for example, employee data. We need to transform this employee data to the destination SQL data warehouse. How you can do? We need to define an activity. That is nothing but a copy activity. We are copying the data from the Azure blob storage to Azure SQL database. That is nothing but the activity. We are performing some action. That is nothing but the activity. In the Azure Data Factory, activity is the backbone. They mentioned different activities. Based on our requirement, we will use the activity. I will show you first, then you will an idea. Here, if you create any pipeline, here they will show the activities. Here you can see, based on our purpose, they categorize the activities into different categories. So for example, I want to copy or move and transformation means copy data. What activity I need to use? Copy data activity. This is the backbone of the Azure Data Factory, copy activity. Without copy activity, I don't see any packages. Whenever in an interview, what activities you have used so far, they expect first activity as a copy activity. Don't tell stored procedure activity. You can start with the copy activity. Okay, like that way, Azure Data Explorer, they have the activity. Azure Function, they have the activity. So for example, here general activities we mostly use. I told you now, we prepared the USQL files in the ADLS project. So for example, if you want to call that USQL, we are using the USQL activity. This is the action. Generally, we will use general activity. These are the common activities we used in the most of the pipelines. What are the activities? Append variable activity, delete activity, execute pipeline activity, execute SSH package, lookup activity. This is more important, and get metadata activity, stored procedure activity. I will show you all these activities when we can use. I will give you examples, and I will show you in the project also how we are utilizing. But what do you mean by activity? Activity is the in the data factory nothing but to perform some action. Like examples are copy activity. It will copy the data from the source to destination. So for example, lookup activity. The purpose of the lookup activity, we will see. Okay, activity nothing but the action performed by the Azure Data Factory. This is very important activity. Without activity, we can't do anything in the data factory. Here you can just read it. Activity represents the processing step in the pipeline. They will ask, what do you mean by activity in the data factory? Activity just represents the processing in a pipeline. Like just you can give the example, like copy activity, copy data from one data source to another data source. That's it. So for example, if you want to elaborate more, just you can use this one. Similarly, you might use a Hive activity, which runs a Hive query, but don't tell Hive activity. Why? Because we don't use Hive activity. Whatever activity we have, after our session complete, if someone asks what do you mean by activity, you need to tell copy activity. Make sure you have to tell. Later, you can tell stored procedure activity to call any stored procedure in the relational databases. Lookup activity. You can use the lookup activity to get the information from the relational databases. I will explain you again. Once our sessions are done, I will explain interview questions. Now they will ask what is the pipeline. Pipeline just grouping of the activities. It will control the flow of the activity. So for example, here I want to use multiple activities. So for example, I want to use get metadata. I want to use loopback activity. If I run, those three will be run parallelly. So for example, I want to run copy activity after metadata activity. How we can do control? Using the pipeline. This is nothing but pipeline. This is a pipeline, means a logical grouping of the activities. It will tell the activities you need to follow the sequence or you need to run parallelly. That is controlled by the pipeline. Now if you see, the pipeline is a logical grouping of activities that performs a unit of work. So for example, you want to copy data from the source to destination. You need to use one pipeline. In the pipeline, what you need to use? You need to use the activity called copy activity. That's it. Here only one activity, that is a pipeline. Suppose for example, you want to truncate the data before loading into the data. You need to use two activities. One is for truncate, one is for copy. You need to perform, you can't able to do parallel with that too. Why? Because you need to truncate the data, then only you can load the data. So how we can execute the pipeline? You need to put the, here we have the option, control options are there. So these two grouping are nothing but the pipeline. Clear? Huh? What do you mean by pipeline? What do you mean by activity? What do you mean by data set? What do you mean by linked service? If you done 2 or 3 examples, you will get a confidence. I know. Just theory wise, these 4 are very important. And integration runtime and other one is data flow. I will explain later. We don't require that one right now. First, what we can do is just tomorrow I will start the data factory. First we will practice to extract the data. We will see the flow. Then you will get idea on these 4 components. These 4 components are very, very important. First, we will start with the linked service. Then we will create the data set. Then we will use the activity and we will create the pipeline. Okay, fine. I think tomorrow we will start the uh, we are going with the first tomorrow. What we can do is, I don't go with any theory blindly. I will use some packages, how to create, how to extract data from the blob, and how to refine all this stuff we will see. And later we will go by one activity. What is the purpose of this activity? All this stuff we will go. Okay, clear so far?
Yes, Surya.
Yes, sir. It's
High
clear.
level, we got the
Yes, sir.
clear.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, by
Ah,
practical, get the more clear.
tomorrow, if so, for example, tomorrow if I show one pipeline, then you guys will clear idea in
Yes,
the data
yes.
from on the data factory. Okay, by theory it is very difficult to understand, but when I am explaining through example, then you will get it. But you have to remember these are the main 4 components. Okay,
Yeah, we
and just
understood high level.
mm,
By see the in practical, we will get clear picture.
yes, you will get clear. Yes. Okay, fine. I think today you can practice that use SQL stuff only, and Friday we will put a exam on the storages and Azure SQL and ADLS use SQL. Okay, and later I will share the real-time or interview question documents. You can start preparing today onwards. Don't wait until course is complete. That is the reason every week or alternative week we will set up a exam, and after exam I will share the interview questions, and Saturday I will explain with you. Okay, don't wait until the course is completed.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one question, sir.
Yes, please.
Uh, in pipeline, what are the activity we have taken in one pipeline? All
Hmm.
activity work parallelly, or we can do some task like first it will completed, then this activity
Yes,
will be triggered.
actually, so for example, here I use the
Like
get metadata.
you told,
So for
that
example,
first of all you truncate the table, then we need to
that is
create another
controlled by
pipeline to.
1 minute. That is controlled by this way. 1 minute, I will show you. Somewhere we have that option is there. Here you can see. So for example, first activity completed, then only I will go to second activity. We have this option. We have the control flow. So for example, if I remove this one, both will be run parallel.
Okay.
Clear? Huh?
Yeah, means first of all we do the activity of truncating one data.
First of all, so for example, here what I can do, I will use the stored process activity. I will truncate the data. Then only it is completed. Here, if you see, 4 options are there. If you see, so example, sometimes if we complete, not completed, my meaning it will success only. Then only I will run this one. So example, completion means whether it is failed or whether it is completed, it will give the completion. Just complete or not. I don't go with completion step. I only go with the success. The data will be truncated without no issues. Then only I will copy the data. In that case, you can use the green arrow. Otherwise, you can use the whatever arrow you want. So for example, completion. So example, I don't run successfully, whether it is complete or not. Then you can go with this different options. So for example, sometimes this activity is failed. I want to notify. I want to do something. We can use the failure activity. You can, so for example, sometimes you are preparing 10 tasks flow. After requirement changed, one task you don't require. What we can do, just we can simply skip it. Clear? Huh?
Yes, sir.
This is very, you are asking very in front. I think once you practice, then only you will know. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Tomorrow we will start to practice, and today just don't leave your practice. Just you can practice on the ADLS. Mostly in the exam, I will ask joint questions. I will give the output. Suppose if I want this suppose I will give the input. If I want this output, how you can write the query. That is the reason you make sure you can understand your whatever you are practicing. Don't do blindly. Okay, not only theoretical questions, practical questions also I will ask on the Friday exam. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
The exam will be offline. Sureka will conduct that exam, and Saturday I will review and we will discuss on that. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it for today. I think we will connect tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, Suren. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.